My name is Swasti Shukla. I'm 11 years old, and I'm from India.
Very good. Share whenever you're ready.
All right, I just have to start it up from the beginning, and I was just doing the last minute look through. So,
Okay. And if I see any of your teammates pop in, I'll just let them in.
sure. So this is my me and my friend's project, and it's about fingerprints and how they relate to our blood group and diabetes. The friends who are here with me out on this project are Aishwarya, Dwisha, Nathan, Mehran, and here we were assisted by our project guides, Riti ma'am and Shubhna ma'am from school. So today I'll be talking about fingerprints, how they're formed, the types of fingerprints, and what is diabetes and what are blood groups. Just to build the basic knowledge that will be required to understand the project. So after that, we'll move on to the actual project, which is what is it about and its steps, what we followed and how we did it. And then I'll talk about the conclusion and how I uh, plan to carry it forward, along with the sources we use to find our information and do our work. And then I'll be addressing any questions. So, what are fingerprints? Fingerprints are unique and complex patterns that are that are on the top of your fingers, and they help to secure a lot of information like Aadhaar ID in India and your bank validation. It's because no two people have the same fingerprint, even twins. If you look at they may have the same base pattern, but twins will never have the same fingerprint. It is not possible. The reason why it does not, why no two people will have the same print ever is because of how they're formed. So they're formed due to both genetics and the physical conditions in the womb. The base pattern, the patterns which we are looking at today, they come from genes, while the finer lines come from the womb where the baby is there and where it rubs around, and that causes small ridges in your fingers, also known as fingerprints. So there are three main types of fingerprints: arches, whorls, and loops. So an arch begins on one side of the finger, moves up, and ends again at the other end of the finger. This is the rarest type of fingerprint. The whorl starts from somewhere in the middle of the finger and keeps going outward, as you can see in this. It goes in circles. Next is the second most common type of print, and these are loops. Loops start on this side, then they curl up around themselves and end like this. This is unlike a whorl because it does not have a full circle. It only has around half, as you can see in the photo. This is the most common type of fingerprint pattern. Now that we have covered fingerprints, we should move on to diabetes. What is it and how it's caused? Diabetes is a metabolical disorder that leads to high sugar levels, not low. There are two kinds. Type 1, which is an autoimmune disease. It's caused by your immune cells attacking the parts of your pancreas that make insulin, which is the hormone that lets sugar into your cells. It kills them and then it causes an insulin shortage. This can normally be remedied by insulin shots. So your body gets enough insulin and you can keep your blood sugar levels low. Then the second type of diabetes is the most common type, affecting around 90% of diabetic people. And the second type of diabetes is where your body cells stop reacting or react very minimally to insulin. Scientists are still not sure why this is caused. Now that you've talked a bit about diabetes, we are moving on to blood. Blood groups have 9 classifications that determines your group based on the presence of certain antigens. The antigens are A, B, and rhesus. There are 9 types of blood groups: A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, AB positive, AB negative, O positive, O negative, and RH null. This is the most rare kind of blood type. So in A positive, we have RH factor, the A. So it has, this is also known as the universal receiver, as it can receive blood from any other blood group. A positive has the A antigen and the rhesus factor. B has the B antigen and the rhesus factor, and O has no antigens, neither A or B, but it does have the rhesus factor. AB positive has the A positive, has the A antigen and the B antigen, but it has no RH factor. A negative has the antigen but does not have the B antigen and does not have the RH factor. B negative has the B antigen but it does not have the A antigen and rhesus factor. While O negative has nothing, neither A nor B nor rhesus. That is why it is known as the universal donor. It can donate blood to any blood group. RH null is where there is no rhesus factor present at all in the blood or the plasma. One second. Yeah, so what is this project about? One second. Yeah. This project is about fingerprint patterns. How do we relate to them? To see how blood group and diabetes will relate. We all followed a certain method, which we all did slightly different. This can be viewed by seeing our trackers. As of right now, for some reason, my PPT will not show all the trackers except mine. I don't know what is wrong with it. I'm sorry. But if you, one second, I'll just, I'm sorry, wait, that was an accident. Um, Yes.
Swasti,
So I'll,
no, you are killing it, by the way. You are doing a very, very good job.
thank you. I'll just open this thing, but if you see it, I'll take it to you. I'll show to you maybe afterwards after the presentation. It has multiple steps that was outlined by our teachers, our project guides, Shona ma'am and Riti. All of us have followed this method slightly different. Well, I'll show you my tracker later, and I can also show you my friend's trackers. I'll show everyone's trackers, and towards the end of the presentation, if that's all right. So we want collect now. This is the first step of our project, which is the data collection after the research, of course, which we have already discussed at the beginning of the presentation. All our research. So all of us had a different method of collecting our data. Some people try to choose the place where they not see any of their volunteers and phoned them with their parents' phone and scrolled and did that. While others they went down and took each person's prints by hand. All of us did get the data by on time, though, no matter the method. So we needed certain materials to collect our data. We needed an ink pad, a pen to fill in all the other data that was also required. We also needed a special data collection sheet, which was once again provided by our project guides, Shobna ma'am and Riti ma'am. The method that we followed in person was that we found a volunteer. We told the volunteer what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, and also tell them that the ink could not leave any mark. We then take their consent in the form of a signature on the back on our sheet, and then we ask the data such as phone number and email ID to contact them to let them know to let them know of our results and when we destroy the data. We took their blood group, uh, gender, and we took their blood group, gender, and whether they had diabetes or not as a part of the one second as a part of the experiment. We needed both of those. We took the age to make sure they were in our age limit, which was 18 to 45 years. After we took all the written data, we took the prints for all 10 fingers. So after we took that data, it would have been useless if we had not analyzed it. So we took one sheet where we put in everybody's data and then made tables and drew graphs. And then to understand the data and look at all the numbers at once. From our graphs and tables, we drew our conclusions and our results. So this was the first graph we drew, which is a plot that's showing the number of diabetic and non-diabetic persons per blood group. So for our A positive blood group, we had 15 people who were non-diabetic. You can see that in the key here. That blue stripes means it's non-diabetic, and red stripes mean that it's diabetic. But we had only one person who was diabetic in A positive blood group. In A negative, we had 3 people who were diabetic negative and none who were positive. In B positive blood group, we had 27 people who were positive and we had 27 people who were negative and 5 who were positive. For B negative, we had 2 people who were negative and 1 who was positive. For AB positive, strangely, we had more diabetic positive people than diabetic negative. Only 1 person diabetic negative and 2 who were diabetic positive. In AB minus, we got the same results as B minus. 2 people who were diabetic negative and 1 who was diabetic positive. In O positive, we had 32 people who were diabetic negative and only 3 who were positive. For O negative, we had 4 people who were positive and none who were negative. This is our second table, which was to show the distribution of the fingerprint pattern for each blood group for people who were diabetes negative. So from all of our people who were diabetes negative, we got 320 prints in total from everyone, and that was the largest for the singular blood group co-positive. O-positive people are the most people who were diabetic negative. Sorry. So for A negative, for A positive, we had 50 volts And then after that, we had one second, 70 loops and 30 arches. For a negative, we had two people, sorry, we had two walls, a lot of loops. You can see to the broad scale here, and very few arches, but the arches were more than the walls, which we found slightly confusing, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word. For B positive, sorry, this was a small error on my part. We had 100 volts, 120 loops, and 40, 42 arches. Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. For B negative, we had uh, we had two walls and two arches, while we had 16 loops. For AB negative, we had uh, two walls and 8 loops. Sorry, for AB positive. For AB negative, we had 8 walls. One second. 8 walls, 6 loops, and 4 arches. For O positive, we had 82 walls. Then we had a lot of loops, you can see through this. And we had a few arches compared to the walls and the loops. For O negative, we had very few arches. It's hardly visible. You should take note of this. We had 2 arches, I believe, from this whole set of 40 volunteers, 40 prints. We had 4. No, sorry, yeah, 4 arches. This is our third graph. Here you can see that A negative and O negative spots have been left blank. This is because if you refer to our first graph, you can see that A negative and O negative have no volunteers who are diabetes positive. So this is our data that we have seen. All of it has been compiled and checked multiple times. After that, you are provided a draft for our project report. We were given a template which we filled in. This is the template. Unfortunately, you cannot open it right now because if I stop sharing, I won't be able to start it. And these are our conclusions. We saw that people with B positive and AB positive were more prone to get diabetes. And people with more loops were less prone to diabetes. So the more number of loops, the less the chance of getting diabetes is what we saw. People with walls were more prone to diabetes, the exception of B negative and AB negative, which we saw different. And those with B negative and AB negative blood groups had fewer walls, irrespective of whether they had diabetes or not. And we also saw that males were 2 times more likely to get diabetes than females. Out of our 100 volunteers, we saw males had there were double the amounts of males and females in the diabetes. So this project has a lot of possibilities, and what I think how we could move this forward is by first taking more volunteers, and also by reducing a few more variables to make this more scientific. So these are all of our sources. I will copy and paste them into the chat so you can view our sources. And now I'd like for everyone to ask their questions. Does anybody have any questions?
I've just got to say real quick, you are amazing. And it's hard for me to believe that I think you're 7th grade or 8th grade.
I'm 7th. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot imagine having done work like this and research like this at your age. And then to come to a group presentation and be the only member here and present so well. Very proud of you. Good job.
Thank you.
I echo
Thank
that.
you.
I echo that for sure. Beautiful. I loved your graphs. I loved them. And I loved
Thank you. There was
how comfortable you
hands
were
on.
talking about them. And the best
Thank
compliment
you.
I can give you is while you were talking, I was looking very closely under the light at my fingerprints to figure out what is the likelihood that I could potentially develop that. I want your N, and in research, N is the number of people that you've done research with. Your N is 100. I would love to find someone to give you more money to make your N a couple of 100,000 and see if this correlation holds true. And by the way, your descriptions on rhesus factors in blood, top notch. I learned a few things
Thank
today.
you. Thank
Bravo.
you.
Swasti, I want to introduce you to another of our that was Jim talking to you, and Jeanette has joined us. She's another one of our co-hosts, and I can see that she's eager to say something as well. So I want to let her have a chance to provide you some comments as well.
And Swasti, I would echo what the others have done. That is a remarkable piece of research. I may have missed this at the beginning, but what led you to your interest in this topic?
It's actually that I've loved to study about diabetes since 2nd grade because my dad has diabetes and I want to find a cure for him. And I thought that if we can find the signs of diabetes earlier, we can stop other people from having diabetes.
And what led you to questioning the link with fingerprints? That's fascinating.
Because diabetes have genetic factors. It tends to run in families. And fingerprints, I've seen that they also have the base prints do also have genetic factors. So I thought that could it be that certain prints, like certain base prints, could be related to the probability of diabetes?
No, it's very, very interesting, and you did it very well. I had a question about your graph. Were those actual numbers? I think it was the last graph you showed us. Were those numbers or percentages?
Those were numbers, all numbers. We drew it straight from the numbers. We didn't calculate percentages there, but we drew with the numbers.
Okay. I really love how you did those graphs. They're beautiful. I wish I could teach my students to make graphs that carefully. Very well done. Very well done. So do you have plans with what you will do next with this project?
Yes, I'd like to try to take out one of the biggest factors of diabetes, which is lifestyle. So maybe we could do that by giving them certain ways to monitor their lifestyle. And I'd like to take this that I find someone with prints and I try to monitor them later on to see if they actually get diabetes, if they have diabetes, which could also prove our theory. So.
Oh my
I'm going to hop
goodness.
off, but I just want to say I am so glad I stayed to see this presentation. You, my dear, are the future.
Yes.
Good luck.
Yes.
Thank you for your time today, Jim, and last night too.
Are you kidding? My pleasure.
Yeah. So
Good work.
Swasti, as this progresses, please come back and join us. We do this once a quarter. And as you get more data, add more to that, make more discoveries about what you can do with fingerprints, and the correlation to blood and diabetes and other diseases, maybe even that you can identify the same way, please come back and update us. This is some pretty interesting stuff.
I know we have Daniel coming on in 2 minutes, but Swasti, you have a global audience here. I think you have a very interesting opportunity to partner with a couple of other schools and get more data. That would be really interesting. Without violating an IR, you could get a lot more data.
Because there are multiple countries to see if this stands true only amongst Indian populations or whether it stands true for other countries too. That would be interesting.
Good luck.
It would be. All right.
Swasti, do you have people there? Where are you living in India? Where do you live?
I'm in Bangalore right now.
Do you have do you know other scientists or people in hospitals that might be interested in this? Have you shared this research with them?
No, I don't really know any people in hospitals and stuff would be interested. So
Well, one of our colleagues, Mr. Anand Kannan, is from that same area of India, and I call the king of connections.
Yeah, that's
So
a great
if there
idea.
were anybody who could connect her to the right people, I am certain it would be Mr. Anand Kannan. So I will have him watch your video, Swasti, and then we can see if he can connect you to anybody else in the area that might be able to help you. Okay? Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.